Hi everyone, today I have One Piece volume 74 here. The volume was released a couple of months back now. Right, on the front cover we have Luffy, Usopp and Frankie. We also have the Thunder Soldier, sometimes known as the One-Leg Soldier. We have Princess Viola, sometimes known as Violet. Above them we have Sugar, Treble and Senor Pink, and below Luffy right here is Pika. These four are members of Doflamingo's pirate crew. In this volume we'll find out more about the Don Quixote family's structure, and the winner of Block D is announced in this volume, and the finals also start in this volume, so a lot does happen in volume 74. Side, back. So let's look under the cover. So there is a slight difference between this cover and the jacket cover. Here, Sugar is eating what appears to be grapes, and in the cover, it appears that she's eating the head of Panda Man. Side is the same as the jacket cover. Back. On the back cover we have what appears to be snippets from the manga, all relating to the Thunder Soldier or the One-Leg Soldier. At the top and at the bottom, these bits are about the Thunder Soldier and his daughter, Rebecca. In the center here we have him carrying or holding his wife, Rebecca's mother, Princess Scarlet, when he carries her body to Rebecca in the flower fields. Okay, let's look inside. This volume has 11 chapters from 732 to 742. If you remember, towards the end of volume 73, the Dwarven army were preparing to attack Doflamingo, the Smile Factory, in order to save their friends and Princess Moncherry. And bring back the rule of King Riku. So this volume is just carried on from that. So at the flower field, the Thunder Soldier is explaining how they're going to enter the underground trading port or harbour. So they're going to use a secret tunnel that leads from the flower field all the way to this secret trading port. And of course, the main target of the dwarf army, the main objective is Sugar. If you've forgotten why their target is Sugar, I'll explain towards the end of this chapter. So yes, the dwarf army head out, enter the secret tunnel. However, Frankie, who's with the dwarf army along with Robin and Usopp, is unable to fit into the tunnel because of his size. So as a result, Frankie attacks the surface front entrance of the toy house, which is also another entrance to the harbour. Of course, there are soldiers at the entrance to the toy house, and we meet here Senor Pink, who stands in Frankie's way. However, Frankie still attacks everyone, And here we see his first attack is a coup d'etat. If you remember before the time skip, Frankie could only use this technique using both hands, but now we can clearly see that he's only using one hand in this attack. So Frankie has definitely got stronger. But anyway, this whole commotion has of course alerted the Don Quixote family, their officers, the soldiers, that the Straw Hat are on the attack. Here we can see that Senor Pink appears to be swimming in the ground. Of course, we'll find out more about this fight, or we'll come back to this fight later on. Just at this point, Leo and the Dwarf army explain to Usopp and Robin the structure of the Don Quixote family. So here's the structure. At the top we have obviously Doflamingo, the boss, and underneath him are the 3 executive officers. These are Pica, Diamante, and Treble. Now Pica and Treble have each 3 officers in their command, so 3 subordinates. Pica has, of course, these 3, including Buffalo and Baby 5, who we met in previous arc. And again, Treble has 3 subordinates, including Sugar and Violet. Now, Diamante, on the other hand, has 4 subordinates, including Lao Ji and Senor Pink. Now, these subordinates of the executive officers are known as officers. They carry the rank as officers, and each officer has 2,000 subordinates who are unranked. They do not have any title. They're probably just soldiers. And all these members have power and reside in Dressrosa. However, Doflamingo has another executive, and that is Virgo. And he only has 1 officer in his command, and that is Monet. However, they've already been eliminated in the previous arc, so I don't think we'll ever see them again. So finally, Usopp and Robin, who took the secret tunnel in order to infiltrate the secret trading port, have finally reached their destination. And of course, Usopp is shocked by its sheer size. Not only that, but you can clearly see in this image there are toys carrying cargo. Some of them have even collapsed from probably overwork, exhaustion, or just have simply died. And that leads us on to the next chapter. So before I go on to the next chapter, I want to just briefly discuss why the Dwarf army are targeting Sugar. She's right here. If you remember from the previous volume, Sugar changed people from human beings into toys, and by doing so erase that person existing from the world, or at least from the memories of people. So the Dwarven army are targeting her to break her spell, and that the toys will return to being human. And of course, they have a lot of anger against Doflamingo and his crew, so they will join the army and cause a revolt, a revolution, and bring King Riku back as Dressrosa's leader. So moving on. Chapter 733. We're back at the Colosseum, and Block D Battle is almost over. These two are notable characters, you might want to remember them. This is Suleiman, if I remember, and this is Olibus. Yeah, names are written there. And then that's about it, really. Yeah, anyway, so the fight is almost over. The Royal Rumble for Block D is almost over. And there are about probably 30 or so contestants or fighters left, including Rebecca. Now I'm back at the Hidden Harbour. Usopp learns from the dwarves that the Thunder Soldier, who's supposed to be the commander of the Dwarven army, he's left the group in order to assassinate Doflamingo at his palace, leaving Usopp in command. Of course, Usopp is shocked by this, as you can clearly see. Here Leo is basically depicting the underground world and of course their position in it. So I'll explain it to you quickly. We have a harbour surrounding a central tower. This is where Treble is guarding Sugar. Here we have an elevator that leads to the surface, and right here in the corner is the Smile Factory. This is of course the target of the Straw Hats and Trafalgar Law's alliance. That's basically it. I'll explain more about this subterranean world as we go through this volume. Right here, a couple of soldiers have found Usopp and Robin. However, the dwarves quickly subdue them and take their clothes. Usopp and Robin use it as disguise. Now moving on to the elevator entrance at the harbour. This connects the harbour to the palace directly. The Thunder Soldier attacks it in order to hijack it, to take the elevator to the palace in order to eliminate Doflamingo. During the battle, he recalls or he remembers training Rebecca, as you can see right here. And he declares that he will restore Dressrosa to King Riku's rule. At the Colosseum, Block D has been decimated. Everyone has been knocked out or killed. And the winner seems to be decided as an unidentified figure stands up. That takes us to 734. So back at the Colosseum, as the dust clears, we see the victor of Block D is Rebecca, to the crowd's distaste. Of course she's booed, and accusation starts flying that she cheated. How could Rebecca have won? She was clearly the weakest. However, she was not the one who eliminated everyone. An unexplained event happened which caused everyone to lose consciousness. No one seems to know what happened, but only Rebecca, as she's the only one who saw what really happened. So during the fight, during the battle in Block D, Rebecca saw Cavendish fall asleep during the middle of a battle. Of course, the fighters, the contestants in the block, see this as an opportunity to take out Cavendish. But just before they could strike him down permanently, he wakes up with a sinister smile. And in an instant, he wipes out everyone in that block. Rebecca saw this coming, and she barely managed to avoid a fatal strike, as you can see, to the face. She wore her helm, so that protected her to some degree. After Cavendish eliminated everyone, he fell back asleep. So everyone was eliminated by Cavendish, and the only one remaining was Rebecca. Outside, Admiral Bastille explains to his subordinate what really happened to Cavendish. We find out that Cavendish has an alter ego. He has an alter ego called Hakuba, and this personality, Hakuba, is much darker, much more of a villain than Cavendish could ever be. But nevertheless, Rebecca is the winner of Block D. Now going back to the palace, Doflamingo gloats to King Riku, who's here in the palace in chains. So yeah, he gloats that Viola's faith in the Straw Hats to defeat Doflamingo and restore Dressrosa to the rule of King Riku is worthless, and that Doflamingo has the utmost confidence in his people to stop the Straw Hats from disrupting or breaching their operations in Dressrosa. Of course, Doflamingo still believes at this point that Luffy is in the Colosseum. Of course, that's not true. He's escaped from the Colosseum. And here he is with Zoro, Kinemon. Obviously, they're disguised very well. And they are heading towards the palace to rescue Law. On the way there, they meet Viola, who wants to help them enter the palace. And that takes us to 735. Now back at the Colosseum, Rebecca finds Lucy to tell him that she's in the finals, but notices that Lucy is different than she remembers. Of course, we know that this person, whose identity hasn't been revealed, has swapped places with Luffy. This person's identity is not revealed in this volume, but will be in the next. We also find out that Diamante will be participating in the finals. Okay, so moving on. Back at the palace, Viola shows Luffy's group a secret emergency lift that not even Doflamingo knows about. Now going back to the entrance of the toy house where Frankie is fighting Senor Pink, as well as the soldiers stationed there. Frankie is raging havoc and is attacking everyone there. Alright, yes, this bit. Not really important, but here Senor Ping gets hit by one of Frankie's missiles, and the reason why he does instead of avoiding it is because he's protecting a soldier behind him. And this soldier happens to be this bloke right here. His name is Macvis, if I remember correctly. He is an officer of the Don Quixote family. He gets up and he tries to body slam Frankie, but misses. At this point, the Marines surround him with the intention of arresting Frankie. Before I move on, I'd just like to state what Senor Pink's ability is. He ate the Sui Sui no Mi, which is basically the swim fruit, which allows him to swim through anything. That's why in a previous chapter we saw him swimming through the ground. Now, moving on. Alright, we're back at the palace. And Fujitora reveals his intention to abolish the Shishibukai's system. As in, he doesn't want Shishibukais to exist anymore. Of course, Doflamingo takes this as a threat and attacks Fujitora. But Fujitora tells Doflamingo that his standing orders are to defend Dressrosa from the Straw Hats and whatever they plan to do in Dressrosa. However, he does say that he will turn his attention back to Doflamingo once he's dealt with the Straw Hats. Now going back to the Colosseum, and the crowd is going wild for the finals as it's about to begin. And on this last page we see Lucy enter the ring. So chapter 7 through 6. So these are the finalists. One of these people will win the prize, which is the Mera Mera no Mi, the Flame fruit. That's the same one that Luffy's brother Ace ate. So the contestants are Rebecca, who the winner of Block D, Lucy, Diamante, Jesus Burgess, and Bartholomew. I almost forgot his name. Yes. Just before the final start, 3 contestants from Block D, who are unsatisfied with the results, charge in with intent of attacking or killing Rebecca. However, Diamante steps in, blocks their attack and deals with them very swiftly. And by doing so, he reveals his ability to everyone. So we know from this that he ate the Hira Hira no Mi, which is like the flap or flutter fruit. Of course, not much is explained on his ability at this point anyway. At this point, Diamante explains to everyone that there are new boss class fighting fish, and that on the back of one of these fighting fish is the prize, the Mera Mera no Mi. And the goal of every contestant in the finalists is to steal the fruit from the back of this creature while fighting everyone off. And the battle begins. Back at the palace, Luffy's group are cautiously sneaking around in order to get inside. However, Luffy, as we all know, is not the sneaking kind. He runs off and he attacks head on. This surprises everyone, including Zoro, which I find it really strange. I thought by now he wouldn't be surprised by things that Luffy does. But anyway, as Luffy has attacked them directly on, they all ditch their really cool outfits and attack the palace head on. Of course, Doflamingo hears of the news that Luffy, Zoro, with the help of Violet, is attacking the palace, but Doflamingo is confused as he sees Lucy fighting in the Colosseum. This angers him right here, and he demands to know what's going on. At this point, we see what Doflamingo looks like when he has no control of anything. Back at the elevator, Lao Ji has defeated the Thunder Soldier, who hijacked the elevator to get to the palace. Now going back to Luffy. So Luffy's group, except for Kinemon has kind of disappeared. We won't see him until later on. I guess his objective was different from Luffy's. Of course, he came to Dressrosa to save his friend, not to defeat the Flamingo. So we know why, it's just we don't know where he's disappeared off to. So anyway, Luffy, Zoro and Violet, or Viola, are heading towards the inner walls of the palace, and they're surprised when the castle wall starts transforming into a person, which happens to be Pika, one of the executive members of the Don Quixote family. And that takes us to 737. So yes, Luffy, Zoro and Violet, or Viola, are facing Pika. And Viola is explaining to Zoro and Luffy that Pika ate the Ishi no Mi, which is the stone fruit, which allows him to assimilate to stone. And here we see Pika trying to cross Luffy and the others. Now we go back to the Colosseum. And Jesus Burgos is indiscriminately attacked the crowd while fighting one of the boss fighting fish. Of course, the crowd are angered by this. They don't want to be involved in a fight, they just want to watch and enjoy people mercilessly killing one another. So much fun. But anyway, moving on. Here a fighter fish, which happens to have the prize, the Mera no Mi, tries to attack Rebecca but misses. Lucy manages to get on top of the beast, and Diamante tries to attack Lucy and try and get the prize. However, Lucy manages to break Diamante's sword with a pipe. Burgess then tries to attack, but Lucy intercepts with a technique called Dragon Claw and completely destroys Burgess's elbow guard. At this point, Diamante notices that Lucy's fighting style has changed and says, "Is this really Straw Hat, Luffy?" Going back to the central tower in the underground harbour, Cavendish gets turned into a toy by Sugar. And is forced to work in the harbour without any control of his own body. Right here we see other toys and who they really are. We see Sly, we see Hackman, and we see the King of Providence, all unable to control their own body, even though they're so strong, so powerful. And they have some serious hate against Doflamingo. Now we go back to Usopp's group, who have managed to sneak inside the tower. Leo tells Usopp that the strategy to defeat Sugar is by placing the world's most spicy seasoning, called the Tetabasco, disguised as a grape into Sugar's grape ball, right here. And upon eating it, Sugar would lose consciousness and thus break her spell, and the toys will turn back into people. At this point, Usopp tells Leo to go ahead and place this destructive weapon into Sugar's bowl. Chapter 738. Leo prepares to plant the Tetabasco grape into Sugar's bowl, but is stopped by Robin, who sees how dangerous Treble really is. Now we'll finally see images of the Smile Factory. This is the map of the underground world, and we have a central tower. The central tower which Treble and Sugar are in. And here is the Smile Factory. And this is inside the Smile Factory. We actually see what it is all about. The enslaved dwarves are attempting to cultivate the smiles under very harsh conditions. The overseers punish them for production failures and motivate them by lies, saying that fruits are necessary to cure the Princess Montcherry. That's the princess of the dwarves, not of Dressrosa, but the dwarves. And of course, because of their naivety, they buy it into these lies. Quite sad. Back at the harbour, Robin, along with the help of the dwarves, created diversion in order to lure Treble out of the tower and leave Sugar unguarded, which does work, and the dwarves go in and attack Sugar. However, Sugar manages to turn half of the dwarves into toys and orders the toys to attack the remaining dwarves. At this point, Sugar calls out to Treble for help, and he responds by using his ability to slam a ship into the tower, practically destroying the tower. That swiftly takes us to 739. The destruction caused by Treble was enough to bring the attempted attack on Sugar to stop. The dwarves get rounded up and interrogated. See right here, they are kind of restrained by Treble's slime ability. Due to the dwarves' naive nature, they reveal information about Usoland, or Usopp, and Treble ignites the slime, injuring or maybe even killing most of the dwarves. Leo managed to survive the blast and lands near Usopp and Robin, who managed to evade capture. Right here, Leo tells Usopp that the plan to defeat Sugar must succeed for the sake of their captain, for the sake of the country. At the palace, the Thunder Soldier is brutally kicked out of the elevator by Lao Ji, and at this point, for whatever reason, he has a flashback of his fight with Rebecca over the false news that Doflamingo resigned as King of Dressrosa. So flashback ends. Back at the Colosseum, Rebecca attacks Diamante but gets beaten quite swiftly. Diamante then tells Rebecca that he was the one who murdered Rebecca's mother, Princess Scarlet. Seeing Rebecca getting hurt, Lucy tells Bartholomew to protect Rebecca. Now back at the palace with the Thunder Soldier. The dwarves that accompanied the Thunder Soldier save him from being eliminated by Lao Ji. Now going back to Usopp. At this point, Usopp is skeptical about the dwarves putting their faith into just one toy, a one-leg soldier. But Leo reveals that this Thunder Soldier was the first to be turned into a toy and wasn't given a contract, so he has control of his body. That is the reason why he leads to the resistance, and we find out that his true identity, apart from being Rebecca's father, is the legendary gladiator Kairos. So he's pretty strong, pretty powerful. That takes us on to 740. Now going back to Luffy and Violet and Zoro. Zoro decides to dual pick her, allowing Luffy and Violet to escape and reach the higher levels of the palace. Here we see the structure of the palace, or at least some of it, and we see where everyone is. Here in what is called level B1 are Luffy, Violet and Zoro. On 1F are the Dwarven squad with the Thunder Soldier, and on 2F are Doflamingo, Law and King Riku. So we go to 1F right here, so with the Thunder Soldier. At this point the Thunder Soldier is being chased by Gladius. Gladius is an officer in the Dokikorte family. So Gladius defeats the Dwarven squad. The Thunder Soldier tries to escape. Gladius, of course, is after him. The Thunder Soldier deals a blow to Gladius, and in doing so send each other flying away. And at this point, Luffy catches the Thunder Soldier. So the trio try to escape Gladius. They're trying to head towards the Flamingo, and Gladius responds by unleashing a hail of shrapnel towards the trio. However, they manage to escape. Kinemon returns, disguising himself as Doflamingo, and unbelievably this actually fools Gladius. By doing so, he finds the location of Kanjuro. That's the person that Kinemon is trying to rescue. And that's all we'll see from Kinemon, at least for now. Now going back to Luffy, Viola and Thunder Soldier. They've now reached 2F. That's the floor that Doflamingo is at the moment. And they see Doflamingo interrogating Trafalgar Law. At the base of the plateau, Frankie single-handedly fights off the Marines, and he's doing all this to buy Usopp, Robin and the Dwarf Army time in order to defeat Sugar. Now going back to the secret trading port, Robin's surprise attack failed, as you can see right here, and she was turned into a toy. Now Sugar has turned half of the Dwarf Army into toys, turned Robin into a toy, and their existence has been wiped out from the memories of people. So everyone's forgotten about Robin. Luffy, Usopp, everyone in the Straw Hat crew. Everyone in the world has forgotten about Robin. The other half of the Dwarf Army were annihilated by Treble. All that's left is Usopp. He's the only one capable of carrying on the mission. However, Sugar also has in her possession the weapon, the Tetabasco, which is the spice ball who the dwarves had the intention of forcing Sugar to eat. But here, Usopp is seen running away, too frightened to fight by himself. So at this point we see that Usopp in some ways hasn't really changed. He might have gotten stronger in some parts, but he still seems a bit of, not a coward, but afraid of doing what's necessary sometimes. Chapter 741. Usopp decides to flee from the factory, but he changes his mind after the dwarves tell Treble how much faith they have in their hero, how much faith they have in Uso land. And this really inspires and motivates Usopp to attack, and he does show up. Meanwhile, at this point right here, back at the palace, the Thunder Soldier, who we now know is Kairos, the legendary gladiator, he reflects on his life before he was a toy, and now we see flashbacks of that time. So just a brief history on Kairos. So Kairos came from the slums. He was a survivor, but he was also very angry, you could say. He would pick fights with anyone. He could defeat many people, including soldiers. Eventually, King Riku, along with his soldiers, arrested Kairos. But King Riku saw potential in him and suggested something. If Kairos won 1,000 battles in the Colosseum, he would grant him his freedom. So that takes us on to chapter 742, which continues the backstory of Kairos. Eventually, Kairos does win 1,000 consecutive matches. So he is undefeated. He is the legendary gladiator. And King Riku rewards him. Oh, I should mention here that the final person Kairos fought, the 1,000th person he fought, was King Riku himself, disguised as Ricky. But anyway, his reward for winning 1,000 battles was his freedom and the position of captain of the King's Guard, or of King Riku's army. Here we see that Kairos has a few fans from his time as a gladiator. Here we see him meeting with Princess Scarlet, who later becomes his wife. And this here is Princess Viola. But anyway, Kairos' life takes a turn for the better when he meets Scarlet. And not too far. She initially distrusts Kairos. She still considered him a criminal, or a brute, or a savage. But after he saves her, or rescues her from pirates, she fakes her death and spends the rest of her life with him. They fall in love, basically. Although she faked her death, she only faked her death for the people, everyone who was close to her. See, everyone who was close to her still knew she was alive and were there when Rebecca was born. And here is when Doflamingo attacked Dressrosa, or I should say controlled King Riku in order to attack Dressrosa to cause distrust in his people so that he could ascend to the throne. Kairos got chained up for attempting to rescue the king, but Doflamingo had no reason to keep King Riku alive. And just before he could execute King Riku, Kairos cut off his own leg and attempted to strike down Doflamingo. However, he got stopped by Sugar, who turned him into a toy. However, this didn't stop Kairos, who now became the one-leg soldier, or the Thunder Soldier. It didn't prevent him from running off with King Riku, who at this point couldn't remember who Kairos is, as he got turned into a toy. The flashback continues with the death of Princess Scarlet and how he could not save his own wife and how she could not even remember him. It must have been devastating for him. The flashback ends and the story moves on back to the secret harbour, and Usopp has been defeated and restrained. Sugar then force feeds Usopp the Tetabasco, which she thinks is poison. And she is shocked so much by Usopp's reaction that she loses consciousness. And we all know what that means. And that's where this volume ends. Okay everyone, thanks for watching. Please subscribe, like, comment. Bye.